Hello everyone, and welcome back to A Second Look. Let me ask you a question. What do Linda Gray of Dallas fame, Barbie Benton, Cheryl Tiegs, and Kim Carnes all have in common? And I'll tell you the answer. They all passed through the offices of the William Adrian Modeling Agency, which is the oldest teen modeling agency in the United States. Tonight, as a special treat, we have Mr. William Adrian, the founder of that agency, right here, along with one of his up-and-coming models, Ciara Pisa. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Mr. Adrian, you are no stranger to Duarte.
No, I picked the first Miss Duarte, and it was quite an experience. There were 12 girls, and only one winner, and only one judge. And a lot of people in that little old city hall. And I'm telling you, I wanted to get out of there because I knew there's going to be one happy girl and there's going to be 11 unhappy. And so as soon as I picked her, I saw a side door and I left.
You were really wise because not only 11 unhappy girls, but 11 unhappy boyfriends as well.
That's it, yeah.
So that was part of it.
That's what I was more concerned about.
That was very wise on your part. Duarte's changed a lot. It's too bad it's dark tonight. We could have showed you a bit more. Ciara, what is it that attracted you to the Adrian studio?
Well, first I did a Google search for teen modeling agencies, and the William Adrian Agency was one of the first to pop up. So I checked out the website, and one of the things that really impressed me was how long the agency has been in business. So I gave Mr. Adrian a call, I made an appointment, and we went from there.
Very good. That brings up the subject of how the agency got started.
Well, I got started, I was taking classes at USC, and they had a drama department. And William DeMille picked 15 people to work in his class.
William DeMille, I should say, that's Cecil DeMille's brother.
That was Cecil DeMille's older brother, and he was the bard of Broadway, and a retired man. And that's how they got him out of retirement. He said he'd do it 1 year. Well, anyway, he picked the 15 people out of about 200, and I was one of them. Well, one of the things we did was put on a fashion review featuring what they call the new look. That was a popular phrase at that time. And I got to pick most of the girls. Well, Paul Hesse, who was the most famous photographer at that time, wanted to see some of these girls after he saw a picture of them in the LA Times. And they wanted somebody to take them over to be interviewed, and I volunteered and got the job, and I took them over. And he made the comment while I was there, he said, "You know, Adrian, we all need somebody like you in Hollywood to feature these real natural outdoorsy girls." I said, "Well, I'm ready to do it." That's how we got started. That's where I got the idea.
It's been quoted that you said Bill Adrian has never given up on the all-American girl. That's right. That's a nice... Ciara, your other classmates at the agency, what pops into your mind when you hear that Adrian has never given up on the all-American girl?
I just think that's wonderful because, you know, the girl next door is just a great look to go after because, you know, we're looking for all kinds of models nowadays, you know, and it's not just the stick figure skinny model, it's, you know, the girl next door. So I think it's just great the direction he's been going in.
Yes, it's interesting. I noticed too, talking about your background a bit, on your website you've been a hand model in a dance studio, Shakespearean musicals, assistant Sunday school teacher. I just have to ask, what do you do with all your spare time?
Mostly photo shoots. I'm always going on photo shoots. I love photo shoots. And when I'm not doing that, I'm usually hanging out with my friends or my family.
This is your latest or one of the latest cover shots you've done. Now, the agency teaches you how to model, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but how did you actually line up the cover? Maybe some people would like to know that.
Well, I like to read that magazine a lot, Japan Up, and I noticed that they had an ad in there that wanted cover models. So I decided to send in my picture, and a couple weeks later they emailed me back saying that they wanted me to be the cover model. So it was an honor and a privilege.
Great. How long ago was that? Let's see, I should know.
Yeah, that was a couple months ago,
Speaking
August.
of front covers, here's one that Linda Gray of Dallas fame in the 1980s. The one thing I've learned about Mr. Adrian is if I mention a name, he will, like a computer, come back and tell me the school she went to, how he discovered her. Actually, Linda mentions in here about the agent who discovered. What's the story, Mr. Adrian, on Linda
Well,
Gray?
I spoke at Notre Dame Catholic, and Linda was one of about 80 girls in the class, and she was the only one I picked because the girls wanted to know, who do you think could make a model? And I thought Linda had the quality. Well, Linda went home and told her parents, and her parents checked me out. They found out that I was legit, so then Linda came to me, and the rest of the story is history. She became way beyond a model. She became a terrific actress.
And you told me that the leg in the Graduate movie, that's actually Linda Gray's leg in the movie. The movie The Graduate, where you have Mrs. Robinson's leg. You told me that's actually Linda Gray.
Yeah.
Okay, see, that's what the things you learn here on DCTV. Quite intriguing. Sierra, what's the program? How do you get through a semester with the Adrian Agency? Tuesday nights, I know you meet on Tuesday nights.
Yes, well, we pretty much learn a lot. We're basically learning about how to be well-rounded models. We're learning about every aspect of modeling, such as acting, table etiquette, health and beauty, modeling for print work and runway. Actually, one of the first things you'll notice when you walk into the agency is the long runway right in the middle of the room. And we practice on that runway every week. So it's really good practice for us. We feel very comfortable on the runway.
And I really believe in the old saying, you're only as good as your staff. And he's got Linda Reimer.
Yes.
Tell us about her a little bit.
Well, Linda Reimers is such a wonderful teacher. She teaches us so much. She knows everything about modeling, and she actually was a model, and she just teaches us so much from week to week. We learn a lot.
She was the head model for Bullock's and Macy's for 30 years, and she trained the Tournament of Roses Queen and Court for 10 years and picked the total wardrobe all by herself. She's got a terrific background.
She's the one who actually, probably more than anybody else, works with the Rose Parade, because on the back of your book, you're hoping to get published here one of these days or years, Mr. Adrian, which is the name of this show tonight. It's very easy to see your resume. You've helped prepare 3 Miss USAs, a Miss America, 6 Miss Californias, but training 10 Rose Queens and 57 Rose Princesses. That must be a highlight of your life.
Well, that's a highlight, yeah, it's very nice. But they're schoolgirls that try out, and some of them have a great quality. Other girls are more just down-to-earth, pretty girls, and they're all hometown girls. I have enjoyed that. I have never been on the Tournament of Roses board or anything because of the work I do. I don't want any collusion there. And it's been very interesting working with Linda, because Linda is so good at what she does. I can't say enough good things about Linda Reimers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree from the few times I've met her. Sierra, that brings up the question about what does it take to be a model? I mean, you're just starting out and all of that, but you must have picked up some, I know you have picked up some things by now. What kind of inner qualities? And
Well, you definitely need to know yourself so that you don't get lost in the modeling world. You know, you just need to be firmly grounded, and it also helps to have very supportive parents,
Right.
which I have. And my parents have supported me all the way, and that has really helped me a lot. So,
even
yeah.
bringing you here tonight on a sort of rainy
yes, definitely.
Thursday.
Yes.
Great to have them. So, Bill, it's interesting. You used to go to schools, right? And you would give talks on career days. And one day you saw a girl named Cheryl Teagues.
Well, one of the interesting things was that I've been asked to speak at career days, which most schools have. And I picked Cheryl out of about 200 girls because I was pretty hot at that time. I was getting a lot of publicity. I'd had some other wonderful discoveries. But when I discovered Cheryl, I hit the jackpot because Cheryl became my greatest model. And I'm very, very proud of her. I also discovered Ginger Dubberly, who married Don Drysdale, who became a terrific cover girl. And there's so many different names that I would sit here quite a while telling you about all of them if I did.
I know in your book, the manuscript, which looking for a publisher, by the way, I know in this book I was enjoying the story about Ginger Dubberly marrying Don Drysdale. That's a name that still works here in L.A. And she actually asked you to give her fatherly advice about,
well,
what do you
at
think
that
of
time
this guy?
she had some different words with her father, so she turned to me and she said, "This guy seems to really like me," and she said, "I want you to give me your opinion. I think he's going to propose to me." So I said, "Okay," and she got me tickets for the game, and he got knocked out in the third inning. I guess he was thinking about her. And he came out and sat in the car, and we were out there about 45 minutes. The next morning she called up and she said, "Well, what'd you think of him?" I said, "Well, I think he's a guy that's going to go a long ways in baseball. I don't know how far he's going to go with you." She said, "Well," he popped the question, and I said yes. So that's how that went.
And I think you even went back the second time with her, and Don Drysdale
Yes, I
got
did.
knocked out again.
Yeah, the first time she said she didn't want to get involved yet. And then the second time, which was several weeks later, I said, "Oh, I don't want to go back there again, do that same thing over." And she said, "Listen, I think he's going to propose to me, and I want your opinion tonight." So she called me the next morning. She said, "Well, I'm glad you went with me. He did ask me, and I did say yes." So that's how that started. So the next thing she said, "No," she said, "I want you to help me get the wedding arranged." Well, that was another job. I had no experience in that. But I did help her. She had about 200 people at the wedding down in San Gabriel at this church. And when they came out, I remember they all got in his convertible. And these people that thought they were well-wishers tied a lot of tin cans on the bumpers. And, oh, he got furious when he started the car up and heard those tin cans. he stopped the car and he got out and he ripped them off and threw them on the ground and drove off. And she said, I think I should have known what I was getting into then. She said, these ball players are very temperamental, and when they win, they're in a great humor. When they don't win, why, don't talk to them. She said, that was the beginning. She said he had his own head.
She now has a restaurant in Hawaii called Drysdale, I think it is, and she stays in touch, right?
Yeah, they've had that restaurant for many years, but they've hit hard times with the recession, and so they've closed the restaurant. It's been open for 20-some years.
Sierra, you mentioned on your resume Shakespearean. You've been involved in, because I think this is what's good. When you start off, it seems to me, as a teen model, with the Adrian guidance, you're broadening out. It's not just all some unfortunate names we could mention who go into the entertainment area. So how does that play out, your Shakespearean dramatic career? Knightsbridge Theater, some reason I should know that.
Yes.
Is that in Burbank?
It's in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that theater. It's great. I've done a lot of plays there. Not just that one. I've also done Snoopy and The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And I've done a lot of acting. And most of it's been in Sacramento. I used to live in Sacramento.
Oh.
So I used to do a lot of ballet too, and I used to do stuff with the Sacramento Theater Company, and that's pretty much where I got my start, Sacramento.
Again, what about all your spare time? That's just for you. The first time I met you was you were working with Mr. Adrian at a seniors. Tell me about that.
Yes, we have fashion shows at various senior homes, and it's just so much fun because you're making these people smile and you're having fun at the same time. So they're just awesome. We get to bring clothes. It's sporty, casual, and sporty, casual, and dressy. And we just model around in a room, and those happen about 3 times a month.
And this has been, I think, Mr. Adrian, you've done about 400 of those?
Over 400, yeah.
Over the years?
I've never charged them anything.
Yeah.
And
these are some of the bigger senior homes in Pasadena.
well, all over.
Yeah.
Not just Pasadena, but Los Angeles. I've done the biggest one in the country, which is in L.A.
The biggest seniors home? The biggest in the country?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's a veterans. It's a government place. And the one thing I keep saying, that modeling is a lot of fun, but it's also a business. Very, very big word, business. So many people say, oh, that's just a guy ran into me the other day. Oh, Mr. Adrian, I haven't seen you in years. You still working with those pretty girls? That must be a lot of fun. I said, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's also a headache. It's just like any other business, but it is a real business. It's not just fun and games all the time.
Like, what are some of the downsides? This is a good question for you.
Well, sometimes you get photographers that aren't very professional, and you want to stay away from them. Unfortunately, you can't always tell if they're unprofessional, but once you've been doing it for a while, you can pick them out, and you just want to stay towards the ones that, go with your gut. Stay with the ones that seem professional, and if there's any red flags, just don't shoot with them.
One of the things that seems to me is like we did here tonight, waiting. Television is a lot about waiting. We actually did pretty good here tonight, but it's a lot about waiting for everything to be ready. Is that a bit of a drain after a while?
It can be, but if you love modeling enough, it doesn't get in the way that much.
Right, you just sort of, into each life some rain must fall.
That's
yes.
right.
One of my favorite things on these covers, the cover of the Adrian biography, which is looking for a publisher, as I said. On the top left, we're going to put it on the screen, Mr. Adrian had a cover on Life magazine. Now, I don't know, I'm not that old, but Life magazine, this used to be it. I mean, someone said Life magazine and Look magazine were as big as the internet is now. And there's a story, of course, behind, this is 1970, and a young girl named Katie O'Pace, who wasn't supposed to be on the cover. Can you tell us that story?
Well, the other girl got there too late, and so he just picked Katie, and that was great. It was 8 pages of fashions, and the girl that didn't get it was in the fashion section, but she didn't get the cover. And Katie did, and she got a lot of work from that. She got a lot of phone calls
And
on TV.
in your book, you mentioned that there's a minister up in Seattle somewhere who fell in love with that picture and had to decide whether to go to Hollywood and look for Katie O'Pace or become a minister. And he decided, anyway, another picture here on the bottom left is Look magazine. Look magazine, again, one of the colossal entertainment and news, you know. Sherry Rice, that rings a bell.
She did over 300 covers.
Incredible.
Starting at 13 years old. And she had a great, great look. There was something about her. If you saw her on the street, you didn't look at her twice. But when she sat down in front of the camera, some magic happened. This girl just had that quality. And it was a God-given quality. It isn't anything I gave her.
One of your earliest successes was Pageant magazine in the early 50s.
Pageant magazine's editor thought I had a great look, a great talent for picking cover girls. He found out that 3 of his cover girls were discovered by me. So he said to the Meade Maddox, the photographer's out, he said, I want to meet this guy when I come out. So when he came out, he did meet me. And I went over to Maddox, and they were right next door to 20th Century Fox, and I spent a lot of time that afternoon. The next week he called me, he said, you know, Adrian, he said, you really got a good eye. And he said, I'd like to make you my cover scout for Pageant magazine, and what I can do, I can pay you $1 a year and give you a little story and credits on every time we use one of the covers. I thought that was great. I had 19 covers in 7 years.
19 covers in 7 years, and probably would have gone on, except the man, unfortunately,
got killed in a plane crash, he and his wife.
Speaking of a good eye, Eileen Ford, who ran one of the most prestigious...
Well, Eileen said I had the best eye in the business, but I don't know about that.
This is where it is.
But that was a wonderful compliment coming from her, because she had the biggest agency in the country.
And it seems like, Sierra, a lot of the girls who work for Mr. Adrian, they sort of stay around, they become friends, you finding that to be true? I know you've been, how many years again have you been there?
2 years.
Okay.
Yes, the girls are so nice there. The first day I went, I was a little nervous. I thought the girls were going to be catty and kind of mean, but they were so welcoming and nice, and that's true with all the girls that come in. They're just so nice. And we're all friends now. I call them my second family.
Very nice. There's another picture here on the bottom right, Bill. When you talk about you're only as good as your staff, there's a young girl named Meg Mitchell. And when you were interviewed for a biography, many people might not know this, but Mr. Adrian was interviewed by the biography team about 1980, I think it was.
Yeah.
They were doing a life of Cheryl Tiegs, whom he actually discovered, and Meg Mitchell was your girl Friday, because everything went wrong, right? The camera bulbs, everything, and Meg was Johnny on the spot there to help smooth that over.
Yeah, she was right there to take the place.
In some ways, if Meg had gone on in television, she was working on, how many was it, the soap operas that Meg did?
She was on Young and Restless 53 times.
Young and Restless. See, this is, I hate to use the word icon of daytime television. Incredible. As we're wrapping up, any comments you want to make, Megan, if you were interviewing Mr. Adrian? What would you say? Or, well, he's got something here.
Well, we're real proud of Megan Finley because she comes from Duarte, where this all started. And in fact, we got a billboard of her over there.
And I should mention that Megan Finley is Margaret Finley's daughter, and she's on she was the Aquafina girl, right? So
yeah, she was in Aquafina. On the Aquafina.
There's a tie-in. So, anything else you want as we're wrapping up here? Anything you want to say that we hadn't covered, or?
Well, this agency has been a real blessing for me. I've been able to have many opportunities and meet lots of great people and even be in some parades and fashion shows. And I'm just very thankful to Mr. Adrian for everything.
Yeah, speaking of parades, he actually invents his own parades, like Armed Forces, Miss Armed Forces Day, for
I've been
example.
promoting Miss Armed Forces for over 40 years. There's a lot of promotion on the Armed Forces boys, but very little on the women. So I promoted that for over 40 years, and we've been in every kind of activity promoting that Miss Armed Forces.
Yes, and it's interesting that tied in with all of the Rose, but you're still, even up till now, providing girls for the Rose Parade?
Well, when you say providing girls, I provide for private builders. I don't provide anything for the Tournament of Roses. I have no connection with them. But for the last 3 years, as an example, I've had the first float in the Rose Parade. They came to me and said, we're going to be doing the promotion for the first float in the Rose Parade. We want to know what girls were really outstanding. You were recommended, would you like to do it? And I said, yes. So I've done it for 3 years now.
You started your agency in 1946, and you met people like Betty White, who actually used to broadcast the parade.
Yeah,
right?
She did the broadcast on NBC on the Rose Parade, and she gave us plugs for 3 years until the wonderful white coaters, the Rose Parade people, said that was a little commercial, so don't do that anymore. But I did have a lot of wonderful girls that came from the Rose Parade, over 350 to 400.
And part of the whole thing is that, in large part, you were going to high schools, you were sticking to your guns. The All-American Girls, the Sierras, people. Which school did you go to? We should
I'm
say.
homeschooled.
Ah, that's a very good school. It's getting more popular all the time. I thought you were going to college now, but maybe I misread something.
No, not yet.
So we could go on and talk about your success. I noticed from the book didn't come out of nowhere. You and Dick Clark worked for the same radio station in Syracuse.
Yes. WLF was a small station in Syracuse, New York. I took classes at Syracuse University, and I was the evening DJ on that station. And when I left the program, there was a young guy that wanted to get on, and he ended up getting my place, and his name happened to be Dick Clark, and of course you know how famous he became.
And they're giving me the 1 minute signal, but we've come right back to the beginning. 1940s, when you were working in Syracuse, getting your start. And obviously there's a lot of stories in that book that we could talk about.
Well, the book has a lot in it. It's over 379 pages, and thanks to you, you edited the book.
Yes, you've just blown my cover here.
Yeah.
I was pretending to be an objective observer, but that's okay on DCTV. Thank you both for coming. It's been great having you, and someday let's do it again. See you next time on A Second Look.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.